Welcome to the Cannabis Equipment News Podcast.
Hi, I'm David Manti, and welcome to a new episode of the Cannabis Equipment News Podcast. With me this week is Lilach Mazor Power, founder and CEO of Giving Tree Dispensary. Thank you very much for joining me today, Lilach.
Thank you for having me.
Before we get started, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You could also help us out a lot by leaving the podcast a positive review on whatever platform you use. If you want to email the podcast, you can reach me at david@cannabisequipmentnews.com with email the podcast in the subject line. You can also subscribe to our daily newsletter. Make sure you get it delivered to your inbox first. Lilach, I always like to start with a little bit of background. How was it that you found yourself in the cannabis industry?
Seems so long ago. I actually worked on a different business plan. It was a wellness center that could help people treat their chronic pain and chronic issues. And when I ran a business plan here in Arizona, I realized there's absolutely no money in it. So I dropped it. And at the same time, Arizona voted for medical marijuana. This was back in 2011. And I thought, this is perfect. I will add marijuana into my wellness center, and this is kind of how it's going to be financially feasible. So applied for those licenses back in 2011, got a license, and learned how to grow marijuana so I can open my wellness center. And I did open a wellness center. We had all, naturopath and Reiki and yoga and support groups. But that part of the business actually did not make it, and we closed it 3 years later, and still selling cannabis.
Why was it important to you to open a wellness center?
So I actually moved here in 2006, and my husband is an ER physician, and I kept hearing from him how many people go to the ER for the same chronic pain and not trying other methods. Big believer of Western medicine, but thought, why are people not trying something when they see this is not getting them the results that they want? So I just wanted to introduce it and say we are a holistic creature. Why not try to do yoga or breathing, or there's so many botanical medicinal plants out there. Open your mind, try different things. So I really wanted to introduce that, but then really.
Well, you got 3 years.
I did. Yes, I did. That's true. And I think, what I realized with cannabis is either you know what you want and you come to the store and you want in and out as quick as possible. Maybe tell me about new brands or new deals, but that's about the extent of the conversation. Or you have no clue about cannabis, and then it's already so overwhelming that adding, try other things into that is just too much.
Which customer do you prefer helping?
What do you mean?
Oh, I thought you meant like there was the customer that knew exactly what they wanted, or the customer that, yeah.
I can talk about cannabis for hours, and I love matching a person with the right cannabis for them. So it's my passion. But I love both. I think this is great. Once you find your thing, I wish we had more loyalty to brands in cannabis, so people will stick to that even more than what they do right now.
Okay. What was it like those early days when you were just starting out with the dispensary?
So we didn't just start with a dispensary. Arizona is a C2 So the license is everything from growing, extracting, kitchen, retail, delivery, wholesale. And we didn't start with the everything, but we did start with growing. So it was a little bit of a shit show. First of all, nobody was interested in cannabis back then in terms of business opportunity. So just funding it was such a challenge. And then finding people that know how to grow cannabis and want to work in the legal market and can make that switch was a big challenge. And then learning how to operate a retail store in such highly regulated space was, a big challenge. So I pretty much lived in the dispensary and in the grow and worked 7 days a week. And I always say I kissed a lot of frogs before I learned how to grow cannabis on a commercial level for patients, but loved every minute of it.
Did you find yourself having a green thumb, and were you able to, how did you find the right people that were looking to transition from that other side of the market into the legal side?
I did not find a green thumb. I will start with that.
Okay.
That is not my skill, so I'm very thankful for having an amazing team throughout the years. We started with people that grew kind of in their basements or in the backyard and wanted to make the switch, so passionate about the plants. We had some people moving from Colorado or from California, other people that grew on a commercial level that saw the opportunity in Arizona. There is a lot of my, family savings into the evolution of the grow until I realized there's not one way to grow weed, and the grower needs to adjust to what we have instead of adjusting our grow to what he's used to. So there was a lot of learning curve and major into learning how to do that. But through that, we also got an amazing team that were just finishing their degrees and wanted to get into agriculture. And this was a crop that actually can make money. So they moved here. I had 7 or 8 call them kids, but employees moving here from across the country to grow cannabis. And they brought their knowledge and were humble enough to work with the legacy growers that we had. And we created an amazing process to cultivate cannabis in our store.
As part of that process, was it important to you with the holistic background? Was it important to you the practices they used to grow cannabis?
Very important. I want to be able to smoke it myself. I want to be able to give it to my friends. I want to be proud of it. I care about what I put in my body. So I never looked for cutting corners or hiding, failed crops, because if you are going to be in agriculture, that's going to be part of it. So I am involved in what we put in, and how anytime we want to change something, to make sure we test it and get feedback. But I don't need to be there every single day to see what they're doing.
How long after you started growing was it until you were happy or satisfied with the product you were creating?
So I think so we started growing at the end of 12, and first crop, let's say mid 13. And I would say that for the first 4 years, it looked like a roller coaster. We were celebrating success and loved it. And then, the next crop would fail or would look bad, or something would break, or someone thought they knew better than us and tried something different and we didn't like it, or didn't, whatever it is. And it's from growing to post-harvest. It was a lot of learning what doesn't work, which I'm an expert in. But I think, 3-4 years in is where we got that consistency of quality cannabis that we're very proud of.
How were you able to achieve that consistency? Was it sort of growing a list of SOPs?
It was. So it was documenting everything from experimenting to what we do right now to what the growers want to trying it, and then creating an SOP. And then from that, creating a checklist of steps that must be followed, right? Because no one's going to work reading SOPs. It's just the way it is. But if they have a checklist of this is what you do in each room every week, that's much easier to follow.
Can you describe your grow for us? What's the size of it? What type of grow is it?
Yeah, so we have an indoor grow. We're growing cocoa, and we have about 6,000 square foot, including hallways. So it's a boutique grow. We produce about 120 pounds every month, and it's really a true seed to sell. So we sell most of it by far at our own retail store.
Okay. There has to be, do you find a greater sense of pride selling your own product versus a different brand?
Oh, I love it. 90% of our flower sales is our own, and people get excited about new strains or old strains that come in, and knowing that I can tell them exactly what happened to that product from, from clone to them getting it into their bag. I love the passion that a grow team that works for a small business has, and how, it's not just our growers, how excited they are, but also the salespeople, the sales team on the floor that knows that it was actually grown a mile away by the team they know, and get to talk to all the time. It's a different feeling.
No, I agree. You keep it local.
Even local.
So, with 90% of your sales being your own product, how do you take some of that risk out from potential crop failures or other issues that might happen during the grow?
So 90% of flower sale is my own. Overall in the store, it's 60%. So 60% is product that we produce, 90% of flower sales. I think first of all, we do grow more than we need in the store, so we have a little bit of cushion there. There's a lot of finger crossing. I think overall, again, we have enough consistency at this point to rely on ourselves, but also in Arizona, if something happened, it's pretty easy to get other people to supply.
Okay. Okay. So, how soon after you launched Giving Tree Dispensary did you start launching brands like Kindred, Sneakers, and Revelry?
So Kindred actually started 2 years after. That was my first brand. I'm very passionate about turning commodity into brands, even though this industry has not been great at actually supporting it. I still believe in it. So we started with creating a product line that we thought would be the next big thing, and it had capsules and sprays and a lotion and flour in a jar. And definitely a little bit too early for the market here in Arizona. Nobody sold flour jars and people didn't get it. So that was great. Those jars were made into candles. So it was really not successful. Again, I'm an expert of what doesn't work. And then the capsule took over big time, and people that really cared about what they're putting into their body and not just having a distillate, but an actual flour high from a concentrate were loving it. People that didn't want sugar or the gluten or whatever it is that comes with edibles were really excited about that. And it was great. But then we saw the race to the bottom. Let me get the most THC for the least price. And that did not work with our model of quality product for a fair price. So we ended up closing the wholesale and only selling it in our stores. And we have people from all over the state that make a trip to Giving Tree just to get Kindred still to this day.
That's really exciting. And I mean, it sounds like while you do really appreciate the products that are a success, it seems like you kind of enjoy the challenge when something fails and then trying to figure it out.
I definitely have a lot of learned lessons in this industry, and I do love it. I think being able to be an entrepreneur in this industry is so exciting because you get to try, because this is an open field. It could work, it could not, and take the risk. And I love changes, I love creating, and I love risk. So this industry is built for my personality. I also love telling people the story of this there's a lot of bumps in the road in the last 12 years. This is not for everyone, sure. But it is really exciting to be able to kind of be a speedboat as a small business and just continuing to pivot and learn what doesn't work and create the next thing.
Yeah.
It's fun.
What was the biggest bump in the road so far?
Biggest bump in the road, I would always say it's people. I think that just as much as the right people will lift you up, the wrong people can really shake the organization. I separated from my business partner back in 2018. That was very hard. Just wanting different things and learning that in any relationship, and especially when we had 60 employees at that point, and learning that how much you affect them as an owner. I take that responsibility very seriously. The fact that people choose to give me and our business their time. So seeing how tough it was for them and how that affected our whole organization and our customers and our people, that was the biggest bump.
Was the other partner looking to diversify into other markets, or
That was me.
What's that?
That was me. I wanted to diversify. I wanted to grow. I wanted to create more and more and more. And my business partner wanted, it was like, we are just now like starting to breathe because it was so tough in the beginning. And, a few times that we thought we're not going to make it. And just when we were finally breathing, I was like, okay, next thing. And she was like, so you got to stop. So we just wanted different things.
Okay. So did you wind up buying the other partner out?
We had 2 licenses and we split assets.
Okay. So at what point did you launch Sneakers and Revelry?
Yes, so Sneakers is a year and a half old, and it's a pre-roll brand. And Revelry came about 2.5 years ago, an idea that I wanted to create for about 4 years now. So really focusing on women, 40 to 60, perimenopause and menopause, because so many people come to the store, so many women with the same, again, chronic issues and not knowing what to do with it. We're finding solution with cannabinoids for these issues, and I want to give it to everyone. I just love telling people, like, try it for this, and here's a product for that. It's once you have that match, that magic happens because you're really changing people's lives.
What is your most successful SKU in the Revelry line?
It's definitely the sleep. So I think if you talk to most women, the hardest thing is for them to stop thinking, relax, and go to sleep. And that has been the SKU that is most popular. This is what women want, to be able to shut off the to-do list and just be able to get a good night's sleep.
Do you like that part of the business where you see a patient come in the next time and talk about how your products are actually solving a problem for them?
Well, so if you ask me what I would want to do when I grow up, that would be it. I want to sit in the dispensary all day long, and I just want to get feedback from people, good or bad. But knowing that someone that's, did not sleep or had to take, Ambien and Benadryl, whatever it is, for years, and now they're taking a capsule that is, like the most natural cannabis in a capsule for them, and how it changed their lives, their kids' lives by just having a good night's sleep. So if I could do one thing, I would just sit in the dispensary and talk to people all day long.
With all these new product launches, what's your R&D strategy? How are you constantly coming up with ideas and innovating new products?
It is by sitting in the dispensary and talking to people. It's, we see almost 400 people every single day. That is data that you can't replace by anything. And if you just listen and see what people are asking for, right? Or see what people are telling you that work for them, if it's migraines or back pain or anxiety, you will start gathering the data to be able to provide that to people in a jar. And that's how brands are successful, right? You find the problem and you create a solution for it.
So what have patients been asking for? What have customers been asking for lately that, might lead to the next new product?
Tell you that, David. I'm just kidding. I think it's always going to be number one is sleep. I think we're going to see more specific of what people have issues sleeping, right? So some people it's hard time to fall asleep. Some people it's stay asleep. So those two things are different, and maybe you can combine them with fast release and slow release, but I think it's going to become more of that. I think more and more people are trying to quit their alcohol intake or reduce it and be able to feel the same as alcohol, which I think is something we still need to work on in the cannabis industry. But I'm sure there's really smart scientists out there that will figure that out, and that's going to be a game changer.
How would you describe your retail strategy?
We are very customer obsessed. So because we started it so long ago from the real mission of, really just making people's lives better with cannabis, this is what we do all day long. We want to show people how cannabis can improve their well-being. So everything we do, from hiring to the training to the process of how we recommend product, is all about that customer. As a small business, I think the best PR is for people to tell each other that they found the right product. So we are one of the only one that says 10 days, go try it. If it didn't work, bring it back. We'll find something else for you. Give us a chance. Let's work together. Let us be part of this journey to, our design is very open. Like, go walk around, ask questions, spend time with us. There's no rush. We're not trying to just push you in and out of the store. And then being part of the community. So started really giving back and doing some fundraisers, right, with your salary. It was that important for me to show that cannabis companies can be part of a community, can give back. Our employees are not sitting under the marijuana plant smoking joints, but they work very hard and they're very passionate. They're so knowledgeable. So to give access to the community, to who we are. And I think, hiring 20% veterans is something that we are very proud to maintain a Giving Tree.
Was having 20% veteran employees something that, like, a number you were trying to hit, or did it just happen naturally?
It happened naturally, which I love. So I am from Israel. We're a country of veterans. And when I came here and saw that it's not the same here, it was interesting to me. And then I got my first veteran employee that was willing to talk to the media about how cannabis changed his life and how many people from his unit have committed suicide and tried to find their way with their own PTSD with alcohol and pharmaceuticals, and just a very dangerous journey. And I thought we need to tell more veterans about this. And I love having veterans to find other veterans that work, in the same place and be able to talk about that. So it actually happened it just happened, and now I try to maintain it.
When it comes to maintaining those employees, being a boutique cannabis operation, do you find yourself losing talent? How does turnover work for you?
Uh, I think we are much better than others. I think people that join a small company feel the pride of being part of it. They like the fact that it's not boring and you get to wear different hats and do different things. I think they like the fact that we're not just a big, you know, weed pusher. We're really doing something more. But I can't always compete with the ability for growth or the ability to pay more. So yes, talented gets stolen. Uh, they get great opportunities for promotions with our other companies. And I am in touch with most of my former employees, and I love watching them grow, even when it's not with us.
Yeah. What are some of the merchandising tactics that you use that have been more successful than others?
Two things that I thought was very helpful to Giving Tree. One is really a clear display of the products and being able to get close to it and spend as much time as needed with reading and writing and looking and touching. The other thing is I think people do care what our team likes. So putting a little note of David's favorites, or putting a little map to show that this is an Arizona-based product and here are the owners behind it, has been very successful. I think people that come to weed stores don't realize that, hey, this was actually made in Flagstaff by these guys, and they started in this year, and now you're supporting your local community, and those dollars stays here. So I think those two things have been real great. And just like any other business, having an impulse station like at the register with the lighter that you realize you need is always a great way for convenience and for sales.
You mentioned the importance of being a good corporate citizen. What are some of the things that you do in terms of community outreach that have been more successful, that have helped you grow the brand?
Yes, my favorite subject. So we do two big fundraising events. One is usually around December, and we let our customers and our employees participate in it. So we're trying to raise money. We match every single dollar, and then we do a walk with that company. So we are involved with Chrysalis, which is a domestic abuse shelter, Streetlights, which is human trafficking for girls 11 to 17. And then we do other things with St. Mary's Food Bank. So getting our customers to donate food, giving them something in return, and then our employees and their families will go and pack food through an event with them, which is what we're doing again in December. So I think the more we get involved, not too much, but two big events a year, and then we do July 4th, we subsidize it at Chrysalis. So we go, we cook, we do an activity with the kids. And I think our customers love seeing that we're so involved with, a local domestic abuse shelter, but also our employees feel like they're part of something bigger. And it's been very successful. We also do some dog rescue event, which we just did one, and I would say that's actually not as successful. So as much as I think all me and the employees are so passionate about that, our customers have not been as excited as when we do something for the domestic abuse shelter, human trafficking, or food banks. So you also have to learn what works and doesn't work, even with charity.
Did you say that was a dog rescue?
It was.
Yeah. And just no buy-in. Just like, you know what? The dogs are fine.
I guess that's what our customers felt like. No one drove to say, hey, I heard that I can donate today, or if I buy this, you guys donate that. There was no interest.
What was the community's reception of Giving Tree Dispensary initially, and how has that changed over the years?
It's completely different. When we first opened, we were in an industrial area because that was the zoning in Phoenix. There was no traffic after 5 p.m. So, for example, women customers amount really dropped. People tried to fight us being there. Now, when we moved to a retail location, which used to be a Circle K, so it's high traffic area, the neighborhood was so happy that we're coming in, and how we're making it safer, and how great it is to drive by and see all the windows so you can see inside and see how safe it is. Everything have changed, but I've changed too. I think all of us. In the beginning, as mother of two boys, when people ask me what I'm doing for the first 3 years, I said I have a wellness center. It was easier. Now when people ask, I'm like, yeah, I own a CPCL cannabis company.
It's definitely, I think, public sentiment has certainly changed over just the last few years, let alone starting in 2012. I can't imagine what it was like those first couple of years.
It was rough. I mean, here in Arizona, when we opened, there was really a fear of the federal government coming to shut you down and take you in handcuffs. Like it was real. But I think it's part of the journey, part of the story.
Not just in your local community, how are things going across the entire state? What's the state of the cannabis industry in Arizona?
Um, what is the state? We have 175 licenses. It is a limited license market. It's going great, but it's also we're seeing oversupplies at the moment, and unfortunately, what we're seeing with that is the race to the bottom. So for some reason, the solution of many business owners, those brands, and turn them back into commodity. So we're seeing 35% decrease in the average unit price in the last 2 years. So even though we're seeing more people, we're dispensing more units, revenue overall in the market is down. We're starting delivery Friday, 2 days. So hopefully that will give a little bit of excitement to customers that have been using anything else than a legal dispensary to actually have the convenience of, getting cannabis to your door.
What's it been like starting that new part of the business? Were there any unforeseen difficulties when it came to the logistics of doing delivery?
So at Giving Tree, we used to deliver to our own patients, like already registered customers that had physical hardship, went through chemo or back surgery or something that we just wanted to make sure they're getting our service. We are not going to compete in delivery as an operator. We have a third party partners, Grasp, who has been doing our delivery years now, and they're going to be expanding to adult use deliveries, and we're going to be partnering with them to deliver our products to their customers.
Was that company Grasp?
Grasp.
Grasp. Okay. Just wanted to make sure I had it right.
Yeah.
I read previously that you were interested in opening up operations in Puerto Rico. Have you been able to pursue that ambition?
Yes. Yes. I have a partnership in Puerto Rico. They have a large greenhouse, pretty significant indoor as well, and then 12 dispensaries across the island with supplying a big percentage of the wholesale market as well.
Okay. What are the details of that partnership? How does it work?
I help them start, and I'm part of like almost like a board of advisors, but
Mm.
they completely run it themselves. And I am their biggest cheerleader at this point. They're doing amazing.
Okay. Why was it important to you to choose Puerto Rico?
Oh, it wasn't that this is throughout the years, there was different people that wanted help to start, to not make the same mistakes that we have already done. So why would you? And it comes down to kind of mission, vision, alignment with any partnership, which again, something I learned. And this was a perfect match. What they wanted to do and how they operate resonated with my values, and it worked. I had other partnerships that weren't as successful. But when people want to start a cannabis business and they are aligned, it just makes sense to have a partner that has the knowledge that I can help, start up to like that first year, and then they start walking, right? It's like a baby.
Yeah. No, I mean, I understand the pride from an outside observer of watching that happen.
Yes, yes, it's fun. It's fun. It's fun to see them like now really grow, and it's like a kid growing. They're doing their own thing, and it's beautiful.
When you're pursuing those other partnerships that maybe didn't work out, at what point of the process did you realize, like, oh, this might not be a good fit?
Uh, I think often it actually happened in the beginning that, if you hire me for my knowledge and my opinion and my lesson learned, but you don't really want to listen and you want to make your own mistakes, and they're very expensive mistakes in cannabis, then it's probably not it. Or when people say, "Oh, I totally want to be part of the community and give back and do the same kind of thing," and then the first opportunity, they're like, "Oh, no, 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 that's that. Like, we're here to make money, and let's." The only measurement is sales and upselling, and this is how we're going to hire and fire, that it's just not value aligned. So mostly, the year prior to the year after is where you see the alignment.
Yeah. What are some of those mistakes that you see startups making often? Just like, hey, I've been through this game before. I understand where some of these pitfalls are going to happen. Don't make the same mistakes so many others have.
I sometimes feel like I walk around with a little pen and pop people's balloons because everybody is overly optimistic in this market, and this is a very competitive, highly regulated, which means very expensive business to operate. And I often see people putting a lot of money into having the best grow with the best technology, and you really don't have to do that. Yes, you want to have, a decent grow. You don't have to have top of the line everything. Sinking $40 million into a grow will take you a long time to return that investment. So it's always comes to starting there. Like, this is still a commodity. You're still a farmer. There's still going to be issues, even if you're indoor. Learn that and try to save some of that money. I think the next thing is, do you want to say something? Okay. The second thing that I found is really people hiring, and I did it, so I'm not saying it. It's very charming to hire people that have an amazing experience in other big industries, to bring them into the cannabis industry and get their knowledge. And I would say 90% of the time it doesn't translate, not in culture, not in values, not in how we operate, as we are, we're flying the airplane and still trying to build it, and they don't align with that and don't understand that um, selling a drink in a regular industry doesn't mean the same here, or being part of a big retail store does not translate. So I think that expense, I would say, is very expensive mistake to make.
What are your own tactics when it comes to upgrading, maintaining equipment, and when do you make the decision that you need to bring something new in-house on the cultivation side?
At this point, we are all about how to be lean and efficient. So everything that we're doing has to have an ROI. We have to maintain a sanitary, safe place to work and to grow something that people are going to consume. Anything beyond that, I am not going for the new trends, for the new technology, only when we need upgrades. From HVAC to floors to lights. We're not just upgrading because we saw it in some show. In Arizona market, also it doesn't pay off. So you have to calculate your return on investment and make sure it makes financial sense.
Okay. I mean, that's smart. Honestly, it's you know, we've seen too many other cultivators, big and small, as you said, kind of invest too much capital in that equipment, and then sometimes it's underutilized, sometimes it's not a right fit, and it can be quite costly for the business.
Very costly. I actually left some of the markings on the wall of the different evolution of grow equipment that different growers said it's the only way to grow it. And I fell for it because I didn't know better. And it was very expensive and not necessary. And this is what you learn with experience in agriculture. One equipment, one way to grow cannabis. And in this market, as we see that this is agriculture, this is a commodity, and prices do go down, you have to be very competitive. So get people that have skill to grow no matter what you have. And that's
How would you describe your pardon me, how would you describe your relationship with the Arizona regulators?
we are very lucky in Arizona in terms of working with the health department. So they are the body that oversee us, and they have been great to work with in terms of questions or the availability for us or getting our feedback on things that work and do not work. On the legislature, the politician side, you know, it's a little bit, it's more challenging.
It's a very delicate way of saying that.
We have, I am the president of the Arizona Dispensary Association, and we represent 85% of the license holders here in Arizona. And it's been an eye-opening to see how hard it is to have people listen or educate or open to learning about cannabis and what it is can do to the states, to the community. How can we protect kids and still grow these businesses? All these things that I'm so passionate about, but it is not as easy.
Why do you think lawmakers kind of push you back a little bit when you approach those subjects?
I wish I had a good answer. I think it's complicated, right? Even now, when we try to explain the difference between hemp-derived cannabinoids and how they can get you very high and it's totally unregulated versus our market, even trying to explain it to my friends, you realize how we just live it, so we know, but it is very complicated to explain just that. So I think that that's not easy. I don't think there's still stigma, so people don't want to be the face of the weed, any legislature sponsoring anything. And I think there's so much else going on that we've been pushed to the bottom, and I totally get that. But we overall, because the Arizona Dispensary Association, we have the biggest companies in the world, actually, right? Curaleaf and Trulieve are part of the association. They sit with me on the board. And then a person like me who has one store just in Arizona, and we work for the benefit of the Arizona market together. And that is showed to be a very good recipe for success as an industry.
Okay. I also noticed that you wanted to expand into Israel. Have you had similar success that you had in Puerto Rico, at least prior to the conflict?
I wish. No, so we actually created an amazing partnership in Israel, and I was very excited about it. It had a, company with decades of agriculture experience with land that would be perfect and indoor and outdoor, and a pharmaceutical company based in Israel that was going to join us. Really excited. And then Israel opened exports, and it kind of killed all cannabis growers in Israel. I think from back then 14 grew to almost 30, and now there's only two companies that grow cannabis in Israel because, again, it's a commodity and it was easier to import all the access cannabis that they see in Canada to Israel than growing it themselves.
I wanted to get back to the kids that you hired or the students right out of college. How were you able to make hires that were a good fit for your company culturally, and then also train these individuals right out of college to be successful?
So the hiring process I'm very involved in, and even more back then. It's not just about their resume. It's about that personality. It's about being prepared to come and work for a small business. So listening to those words of why they want to come work for Giving Tree, right? It's people that mentioned this is a small business and they'll get to learn more, or I saw that you were doing fundraisers and I love that. Like there's little things that you need to hear. I think all of them really, they graduated from something related to agriculture, so brought a lot of knowledge, and we're really excited to be growing weed after. So it was a lot of that personality match to make sure that they don't think that they can come here and tell us how to grow weed, but want to share that knowledge with people that know how to grow and how can we make it better because they have that institutional knowledge.
When it comes to the industry overall, cannabis really likes to pose itself as a very progressive industry. When it comes to being a woman at the head of a company, how would you describe what it's like being a woman leader in cannabis, and how would you describe the current state of it in terms of being a diverse landscape?
So I'm one of the only women-owned license holders in Arizona. Maybe the only one that, is really the majority owner like I am. And it's disappointing. It's not something I'm proud of because it's 2024 and I shouldn't have to say that. I think I'm sure there's both ways, right? It's people that, like me, I don't really notice if I hire a man or a woman or what color they are. I really get excited about, the culture and value match that you don't see it. And I'm sure this is how some people see me. Like it doesn't matter that I'm a female, but a lot of people are very excited about that as well. To work for I'm involved in the company. I still do the day to day. So be able to be part of that instead of working for one of the largest cannabis companies in the world that doesn't have a lot of female influence. People, it matters to them. But I can also say it is more challenging. It's more challenging to be, a woman. It's always harder to raise money, and I think this is why a lot of women were not able to be part of this industry. it is because guys get invite each other for those happy hours and those dinners and those trips, and I don't get invited as often. I have, my group of guy friends in the industry that now see me as one of them, but it doesn't happen organically or as easy as it is because majority is guys and they hang out a lot more. Um, but I'm also very proud. I try to inspire if it's the men in the company that have girls or girlfriends, or if it's women that I'm trying to tell them it's possible. We just have to go for it. You have to take the risk.
I'm really impressed with how, even after being the head of the company a dozen or so years, you're still so protective of the company culture. Why is it so important to you?
I think because I learned how important it is. I learned that when you work for a small business, especially, you join something that is not just your job description and your title. You have to buy into it. You have to have a mentality that if Joni's going through something, I'm going to jump in to help. Doesn't matter what position it is or if it's on the weekend. And the only way to create that is to have that culture that people that speak up when something is right or wrong, um, kudos or complaints. It's people that wear many hats. It's people that get shit done. All those values that we bring create a culture that I think is the only way to survive as a small business, especially in the cannabis industry. So learning that when I let go and people kind of took over management and hired people that were not aligned, it created so many issues, and it takes a lot longer to fix and create that trust system and care and passion. So I'm very protective of that.
I read an article where you had mentioned that it was very important to you to elevate the cannabis industry. Do you feel, are you happy with what you've achieved so far?
I am very proud of what we achieved. I think we are a company that still goes by the same values and the why we started it, in our own store and how we grow in our sneakers brand now in 80 stores in Arizona, really going back to why we started it. I am disappointed with the state of the market and how we are racing to the bottom. And when you race to the bottom, you get to the bottom. And not understanding that this is not how you win, and this is not why we started it, and this is not the spirit of this industry, which is all about innovation and passion.
I like that. When you race to the bottom, you end at the bottom.
People forget that, right?
Right, right. I know it gets so cutthroat sometimes that you realize, like, hey, we all have some common goals here.
Yes. Yes. And as an employer, I look at the 43 people that work for me, and I think I have to make good business decisions to make sure they are in a better place next year. And I can't do the race to the bottom if this is my goal. If they are in a better place, the business will be in a better place. But if I can't get them there, the business won't get there.
What's next for Giving Tree?
I think for us, we are in a really good place in terms of our team. I have the best team. They're so passionate. They have the experience. They work with each other so well. It's almost like I'm not needed at this point, and that's great. I think 2025 is going to be a year of silencing the noise, focusing on what we love to do and why we started it and who we are, and focusing on that customer. So back to basics, back to reminding ourselves who we are. So from the customer service to the knowledge to the events and the fundraisers we're going to do. I think that's going to be really our focus. On the sneaker side, we're doing this big campaign now, which is smoke weed and win 10,000 for a chance to win $10,000. And it started as a joke of like, this date you have to pay people to smoke your weed. And that's why we came up with this kind of funny, not funny campaign. But we're giving out $10,000 cash to someone with the lucky card from the sneakers bag. But even there, we're going back to basics. We went from our access in cannabis from our own grow of 40 pounds to buying 60 pounds every month because it grew so much, and realizing we're netting the same. So back to why we started, what we're proud of, to give people a really good joint of our flower and running with that.
I like it. You're going old school, back to the golden tickets promotion.
Yes.
Well, Lilach, thank you very much for taking the time today. I really do appreciate it. Before we get out of here, is there anything else that you want to make sure the Cannabis Equipment News audience either knows about yourself or your work at Giving Tree Dispensary?
Thank you for having me, first of all. I hope that the listeners will kind of remind ourselves what is the cannabis industry, how we started, and how we can all make a difference, and hopefully join us at this journey of back to basic, back to our why.
Yeah. I also really like the idea of, just being a good corporate citizen, being involved in the community, and how much of a difference that can make.
100%.
Well, thank you again. I hope we get a chance to do it again soon.
Absolutely, anytime.
All right, before we get out of here, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You can also help us out a lot by leaving the podcast a positive review on whatever platform you use. If you want to email the podcast, you can reach me at david@cannabisequipmentnews.com with email the podcast in the subject line. You can also subscribe to our daily newsletter. Make sure you get it delivered to your inbox first. For Lilach, Mazor Power, founder and CEO of Giving Tree Cannabis, Giving Tree Dispensary, I'm David Manti. This is the Cannabis Equipment News Podcast. See you next time.
Welcome to the Cannabis Equipment News Podcast.